Okay, now let's talk about gas prices. Gas prices used to be 65 cents per gallon in the United States. That was many decades ago, but many people remember when prices were around 65 cents or even lower. Imagine that someone asked in 1980, when are gas prices in the U.S. going to recover to their prior level of 65 cents? Someone like me might have said to them, never. They might say, do not be so negative. Think positive. Next, imagine that someone asked in 1990, when are gas prices in the U.S. going to recover to their prior level of 65 cents? I might say, never. Again, they might say, do not be so negative. Think positive. In the year 2000 or 2010 or 2020 or 2030, someone might keep asking me when gas prices will recover to their prior levels. I may keep answering the same answer. Never. Or they might not. The person asking, may keep dismissing my answer as negative and discounting it and saying, I don't like that answer. Think positive. Don't be so negative. Don't be so negative. Do not be so negative. There's something ironic about that, but let's move on. Next, let's talk about stock prices in Japan. Now, we could be talking about real estate prices in Japan, but let's talk about stock market prices in Japan. In 1990, someone might have asked, when are stock prices in Japan going to recover to their 1989 high? Someone might answer, they might not ever recover to that level. That might be called a negative forecast, right? In the year 2000, someone might have asked again, when are stock prices in Japan going to recover to their 1989 high? Someone might answer again, they might not ever recover to that level. That might still be called negative, right? In 2010 or 2020 or 2030, someone might continue to ask, when will the Japanese economy recover? When will stock prices in Japan recover? Or when will real estate prices in Japan recover? The answer may still be maybe never. That answer still may be dismissed as negative in 2030 or 2130 or 2530. Now, I threw a chart in there. The Japanese stock market is still down after about 80% after 21 or 22 years of so-called recession. How long are recessions? The Japanese stock market is down about 80% after around 22 years. How long are recessions? All right. Consider that one factor in the Japanese economy and the changes in the Japanese economy is the cost of fuel, which was recently over $7 per gallon when priced in U.S. dollars. Converted from yen to U.S. dollars, the Japanese prices for a gallon of gas. So as fuel prices rose there in Japan, that affected the spending and borrowing behaviors of businesses and individuals. Their economy slowed down. Kind of like an 84-year-old woman who was already startled by a speed bump the last time she drove through that particular school zone. Next time she drives through the school zone, she's probably going to, we hope, if she has a decent memory, right? She's going to know in advance, oh, there's a speed bump in this school zone. It's a school zone. There could be even kids here. So high fuel prices were like a speed bump, interrupting the prior economic patterns from when gasoline was 65 cents a gallon in Japan, for instance. So in 2008, prices of diesel fuel briefly exceeded $11 per gallon in the UK. As fuel prices worldwide rose since 1999, the economy of the UK hit a speed bump. People bought less stocks and sold more stocks because they were buying about the same amount of gasoline, really, not a huge difference in the amount of gas they consumed until 2008 or so, but they were paying a whole lot more for it. So stock prices came down in the UK since 1999. Real estate prices came down too. Many people asked, when would the UK recover by 2005 or 2008? People were asking things like that. Other people may have answered that question of when will the UK recover by saying maybe never. Now, some people might have dismissed that answer as negative. Other people might have said, well, that answer is negative, but we don't dismiss it. It's true that it might never recover to what it was in 1999 in the UK. Now, many people ask, when would the UK recover? Others said, maybe never. So here's UK stock prices. The chart there shows 1984 through middle of 2011. And you can see the high in 1999 It's really the very end of 1999. Kind of been a rough decade or so. Not horrible, but um, I don't know, a 40% drop or so from that peak at the end of '99 to late 2002, or maybe it was even early 2003. Anyway, so UK, not as bad as Japan. It had another 10 years before it hit its peak. Now, before we move on to talking about some price forecasts and getting over to some applications to the U.S., I'm going to review just real quickly an article I wrote in 2004, and then we'll break into a part. This will be the end of part 2, and we'll go into part 3. Now, in talking about price forecasts, in 2004, I published a forecast of rising prices for fuel worldwide and a series of predictable consequences on prices of other things, such as U.S. real estate and U.S. stocks. And part of that was based on simply a recognition of what had already been happening in the UK and Europe and Japan and certain other places. So you can see there an image where I highlighted in blue. It's pretty small, but the date I published it, which was November 7th, 2004. And I used the term the domino oil effect, and you can read what I said right there. We're going to save the next part for part 3, the next section of the blog, part 3.